Well, hey, it's been a while since I've done one of these. It's funny, I posted my last pedalboard demo, like 5 months ago, something like that. And then basically right as I posted it, I was like, it's time for a change. It's time to redo this board. I'd kind of been with it for a while, and at least the larger part of it. I've been with it for, I think, 2 years or close to 2 years. And it was kind of like, yeah, it's just time for a change. So shortly after that, I sold off a lot of stuff and then upgraded and wired up a new board, or had a buddy wire it up for me, and I can get into that in a little while. So yeah, figured since it's kind of an ice apocalypse day here in Dallas, Texas, I figured pretty good day to knock this out since a bunch of people have been asking for it. So I'm happy to share what I'm working with, sounds that I get, all that good stuff. Before I get into that, I figure like a proper introduction would be good. My name is Jake Fauber. I am a guitar player based out of Dallas, Texas. And I play around town here quite a bit. The organizations I'm typically involved with are Worship Initiative, and the churches I've been playing at are Lake Point and Watermark Church. And I fly out and play with all the Worship Initiative artists individually, and the Worship Initiative as a whole, and play on Sundays and Tuesdays at those churches. So yeah, it's been really fun. I love what I get to do. It's a blast, and I love getting to help people and be a resource as much as I can. So before we get started with the board, I figured I'd share what I'm playing with today as far as guitar goes. I'm playing my Duesenberg Fullerton CC. I love this guitar. This is currently number one. My Jazzmaster Brown Jazzmaster with the Lambertones Ristrettos pickups is needs a little bit of TLC right now, so I'm not using it today. I'll be using this guy. I love this guitar so much, and been playing with it basically like, I mean, three, 4 times a week for the last few months, and I love it. So yeah, I'll be walking through my whole pedal board. I'm running into Logic with my SSL interface. I'll just run down the line, and we'll save, and then we'll do sound examples along the way and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, follow me at Fake Jobber on Instagram, or send me a message here on YouTube. Like I said earlier, I love being a resource and helping people as much as I can with tone stuff and with pedals and even playing. This is what I do for a living, and I love to get to share that information with y'all. So yeah, let's go ahead and just hop right into it. All right, so let's just start from the top of the chain. So first in line is the Jackson Audio Fuzz. I'll be honest, I don't use this a ton. I used it on a track, I think last week, and I've like played with it on Sundays once or twice. It has come in handy, but I'm not using it a ton, so I can't like speak to like, I mean, it sounds great, but I've not been a huge Fuzz user in the past. So I can't speak to like how great it is in context with like every other Fuzz or whatever, but I've liked when I used it. I just don't know if I'm going to hang on to it that long. I thought I would use it a lot more, but just haven't gotten a ton of use out of it. It sounds great, I just don't use it a lot. Next up is the Jackson Audio Bloom. So I love this compressor. It sounds amazing, but I think it might be like one of the most valuable pedals on the market, because you get like, I think 5 or 6 different compression options, which is insane. And then you also get a Baxandall EQ and a boost. So it's kind of just like an insane multi-tool that sounds really great, and is just like super duper functional for it's just a lot of value. I think, in my opinion, I absolutely love this pedal. The way that I have it set, I basically have all 3 parts on at all times. So with the compression, I like the limiter setting, and I really like parallel compression. So if you can see, I basically have, like, it kind of lives like around here most of the time, and I slam the compression. So my philosophy of compression is like, if I can utilize all the good out of compression, which is like, you know, like a ton of sustain, then I'll do that. And if I can like remove all the bad, which is just like crazy squash, then I'll do that. So for me, with a parallel compressor, I feel like I just get all of the good and none of the bad. It is pretty squashy still, but I still feel like my attack remains intact. And then the EQ, the Duesenberg has kind of been my daily driver lately. And I notice it just has like a lot more low end than what I'm used to and what I like. So I typically roll off the lows, and for me, I just, any mids that I can get or any more that I can get without like just being absolutely completely like nasally and stuff, then I'll utilize it. And treble's pretty much straight up. Sometimes I kind of like, if it's a little too bright that morning, like if it just depends on the room or whatever, I'll roll back on the treble. But typically it just lives right in the center. This is a phenomenal pedal. I can't recommend it enough. Next up is just my number one all-time favorite overdrive pedal, the Jackson Audio Golden Boy. This has been on my board for 2 years, and I'm just head over heels with it. It's got 4 different drive options and 4 different boosts. It's a blues breaker circuit with like 4 different clipping options on the drive setting, and it's just unbelievable. It kind of answers any like problem that I might have of like, hey, I'm doing a track and I need something really like not clipped. It has an option for that. Or just I need just a mid boost, and it has an option for that. Typically I've been living in just boost land, and I've kind of been cycling between these 2 options. So the green is the mid boost with that like right there. And then if you hold down, you can swap, and it goes to the tailored boost, and that's kind of number 2. It just depends on the day, depends on what I'm looking for. But lately, I've just been kind of living in boost land, adding the right amount of mid hump in the case of the mid boost, and not a ton of saturation. And it's just typically I find it's the right amount of gain. One thing I forgot to say about the Bloom is I always leave the boost on because or like 90% of the time I leave the boost on because I've set my drives to that boost. And if I turn it off, then it's like perfectly clean for all the ambient tone. So like 90% of the time, it's just like ready to go. It's really nice and punchy. And then I just stack the boosts on, or the drive pedals on top of it. So back to the Golden Boy. I haven't been using the drive setting a lot lately. I haven't, it's not been kind of, doing it for me, I guess. It still sounds amazing. I just haven't been using it. But the times that I do turn it on, it's just like, gosh, it just sounds so perfect. Currently, I'm running it on the perp or the magenta, which I guess is kind of like their king of tone clipping stage. It sounds amazing. And then finally on the drive section is the Jackson Audio Twin 12. This pedal is an absolute monster. I have had a ton of fun with it. I've been a little kind of like, like sometimes, or all the time, guitar players can just be really fickle and go, is this what I want? Is this the sound that I want? Blah, 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 blah. But then I turn it on and it's just kind of one of those things of just like, it just sounds too good. And I like the way it sounds like in this. It's kind of like a lower gain. So when I turn it on, it's just like basically like a crunch. And then if I throw the mid boost into it, it's just rock and roll, church. It's ready to go. It sounds amazing. And this, what's cool about the Twin 12 is it's like, for me, a way more usable pedal or a way more usable fuzz. So like I said, I've not been getting a ton of use out of that, but with this, if I need just like nasty fuzz, I just crank it and it's killer. Sounds absolutely incredible, but kind of right around that part right there is where I like it. Volume straight up, bass all the way off, and treble all the way up, just to get that really snarly rock and roll kind of tone. This is also a really dark pedal, tonally speaking, so I just have to compensate a little bit for it. It sounds phenomenal. I love this pedal. Before I close out the drive section, I'm a huge fan of Jackson Audio, if you couldn't tell. I really think they're making my favorite drive pedals. I've just loved them. I had a chance to get up and meet the guys. They're over in Keller, which is like an hour from where I live. And they're super nice, really hospitable, and I just love their pedals. They feel really good underneath my hands. They answer all my questions and solve all my problems. I'm a big, big, big fan. So then after drives, I go into the Lehle volume pedal. I've had this one for like 3 years. Kind of the cliche bit of like, I had like 4 Ernie Ball pedals. I've had a Goodrich. I've had blah, 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 blah. And finally I got sick of changing volume pots or the string breaking or whatever. And I finally was like, screw it. I'm just going to spend the money and buy this guy, and I'm so glad that I did. It's built like a tank. Like it's not going anywhere. The taper's really nice and smooth. I love just great. It's just an expensive volume pedal, but like it's not going anywhere. I'm a big fan. And then after the Lehle, is the GFI Synesthesia. This is officially my favorite modulation pedal ever. It does everything like perfectly well, and then the routing options are just insane. It's kind of opened up my world of modulation and getting those really wide chorus sounds, like those rack mounted chorus sounds. It's just unbelievable. So I use it a bunch of different ways. So I go over to here. This is kind of the brain for this. So we'll get into this in a minute, but this is kind of the brain for all of my delays and modulations and stuff. But I just come in here and I've got a few different sounds programmed. I've got a chorus that I use a lot. And here's kind of what sold this pedal for me. So if you see this, it's two lines that are parallel to each other. That means that there are two independent dimension C algorithms that are left and right. So they're parallel to each other. And I run in stereo, so left side is like a one rate and depth and the other is another. And they're slightly offset. So it's like a slightly slower on the left than the right and slightly deeper. Like just a slightly different chorus sound, and it just sounds insanely wide. And I do this with my tremolo as well. I don't do it on my vibrato. I like the color from the record algorithm into the vibrato. It sounds a lot like, because the VB2 sound is kind of like a vibrato. It's like a very unique vibrato sound with like a slight bit of like compression. And I feel like that's what separates the Boss VB2 from every other vibrato pedal ever made. And this to me gets close. It's not perfect, but it still has that kind of compression thing, like the clipped thing, and then kind of that low mid woof kind of situation going on. I have this very, very close to my VB2s that I've had. But all that to say, it's just like perfect for me. I've loved this pedal so much. To me, it's just not going anywhere for at least for a really long time. It's become too valuable of a tool. All right, so finally, into the delay section. So I'm running the Strymon LCAP V2 and the Meris LVX. The Meris LVX is brand new for me. I've only had it for like maybe a month, and it's insane. I have a hard time calling it a delay pedal because it does about 400,000 things, and which is a lot of things. It's a lot of things. And I'm still trying to figure it out, but I've kind of settled in on like one sound or like two sounds that I'm just really, really, really sold on. And the way that I run my delays is I stack both of them pretty much all the time, pretty much. So kind of what I have set here on the Morningstar are two, I call them basic 1 and basic 2. And it basically determines which pedal gets the dotted eighth. So And basic 1, L cap gets the dotted eighth, and there's the deluxe memory man patch on the LVX, which is like a eighth note delay. And then basic 2 is, which I don't demo playing because I just haven't settled into this sound quite yet, and I'm not ready to use it. But it's called Edge, so I think you can kind of guess what it is and or what it's trying to emulate. And the L cap is getting the eighth note. So I like the gallopy delay sound, and you can hear that in the demo. I love the way that the delays kind of diffuse into reverb and wash out, and just the texture that a stacked combination like my basic 1 creates. It's really great. I'm very impressed with both of these. I've been a Strymon user for forever, and I had a timeline, and it was just I just wanted to try some new things and get some new sounds that were really weird, so I went with the LVX, and I've been really impressed by it. It's like, I guess it's like reading the hardest book ever written and trying to, it's just like you're constantly figuring it out and what it means and what it's doing and how everything works together. It's just absolutely wild. So the 2 things that I'm using for sure all the time are this DMM patch and then this curved space, which is just a factory setting, but it just has this like crazy barber pole phaser kind of situation going on. It's just insane. Like, you can hear it when I demo this drone setting. It's just ridiculous. It's like I said, it's kind of hard calling it a delay pedal because it does so much. But I've really been a huge fan of it. Like I said, I'm still settling in, but I really love it. Yeah, it's great. This is a great pairing for sure. Okay, so I got my order mixed up a little bit. Post volume pedal, it goes Synesthesia, Microcosm, L cap, LVX, then reverb. So I'm just getting to this, just so you know what the order is. I'm getting to this a little out of order, but that's okay. Hologram Electronics Microcosm. It's kind of like the LVX for me, of like, I don't really know what to call it. I've had some friends go, "What is it?" And I go, "Well, it's a micro loop, it's a reverb, like everything, I guess. Like, it kind of does everything, and it does everything really well. My favorite things that it does are all the crazy stuff. So you can hear that in the demo as I play, but like it does so many things that are just that nothing else on here or nothing else that I've heard does. It like the micro looper thing that it does, like, or the sequencer or whatever, I don't even know. It's just out of this world insane. And it's cool, like when you're, like layering tracks and, like you want this weird loopy thing in the back, like just to throw that and tuck it back in the mix. Like it's super fun texture. And yeah, I've just had a blast getting to know this pedal. Currently, I'm using it as a reverb, though, or mostly I'm kind of using it as a reverb, which I feel like does it a disservice, but like, or I'm not using it to its full potential, but just the way that this reverb sounds is just insane. So I'm using the ambient reverb, and I'm using 2 different levels of it. I have a verb setting here, which recalls this first one right here, and it just sounds great. Like it's before both my delays, so it kind of like washes the delays out in a really cool way. And it's been really fun to play with that. And then on the drone patch, it's just a fully wet version of that, and you can hear that in the demo as well. Yeah, I mean, I just love this pedal. It's kind of one of those that, like, once I got it, I was like, I don't think this is going anywhere either. There's a few different pedals on the market that do that kind of thing now, like a lot of the Chase Bliss stuff, and I'm sure there's more that I don't even know about, but it's just the audio quality on the Microcosm and how it just repeats. And I mean, oh my gosh, just this filter is just the most beautiful sounding filter I've ever heard. So to me, it's just kind of an invaluable tool that it's a big pedal, takes up a lot of space, and it doesn't do, I guess, that many incredibly useful and usable things, but like the things that it does, it just makes it kind of one of those things that's going to be hard to part with in the future. So yeah, there's a lot to say there. Last pedal in the chain is just the tried and true RV5. I've had a bunch of different delay or reverbs, and I've liked all of them, but nothing does the like whooshy, really heavy reverb sound that the modulate setting on the RV5 does, and not even close. I had a patch on my Big Sky that was very, very similar, but it still didn't hold the same weight. in the mix of like all of this stuff. I find myself just really just attached to this in almost an unhealthy way. It just sounds perfect. I've got the tone all the way off, the time all the way up, and on the modulated setting, and those are taped off. As you can see, there's gaff tape right on those. And I literally just like roll this up with my foot. You're probably like, Jake, it'd probably be easier if you just had a MIDI reverb pedal and you know, could control it with your Morningstar or whatever. And yeah, you're probably right, but it's just worth the hassle to just sound that good. It's so perfect. All right, and then going into all of that goes into the Ruby. I had the Dream and Ruby combo, and after spending a lot of time with that pairing, I noticed that, like, I think it was the Dream, it just broke up earlier and differently than the Ruby. And like my left side was always just like a tiny bit hotter than the right side. So like Dream was always a tiny bit hotter than the Ruby, in just not a fun way. And I had some, you know, like doing some sessions and stuff, like the producer would be like, hey, your left side's hotter, can you turn it down? And then it just wouldn't feel right. I could never get the levels like perfectly balanced. So I was kind of like, you know, I just don't care anymore having the pair. So we'll just go with one of them. And I picked the Ruby, and I'm glad I did. It's just great. It's bright and full sounding and everything. It's just everything about it is awesome. I will say I would love to have a Dream just to like throw on when I want a different option, and that'll probably come in the future, but just for right now, it just sounds really awesome. And then finally, with the signal chain, with all the audio components, is the Canvas from Walrus Audio. And I mean, it's you need one. Like, you just need to buy it. I honestly didn't want to believe that it made that big of a difference, and then the first time I plugged it in, everything just woke up. Like, everything was punchier and fuller and louder, which, you know, I guess you could say it's just louder and that's a placebo to make it sound better and feel better or whatever. But honestly, like, it just opened everything up. There was more clarity. There was more punch. It was just, everything came alive in a really cool way. So yeah, if you don't have one and you're running like an amp sim like the Ruby or the ACS1, you need a stereo Canvas for sure. No questions asked. All right, and I saved the brains for last. I wanted to go through the audio before I got to the MIDI. This is the Morningstar MC8, and I love this tool. When I was on Helix, it absolutely spoiled me. It just, the like snapshots and all that stuff absolutely spoiled me to death. And then going to a big board, I just missed having the MIDI flexibility. That rhymed, that's cool. Just to be able to change the patches on my wet pedals and my mod. My wet pedals, or most of them. So I didn't have to, like, you know, tap here and then tap through there and then here, you know, just to kind of be like, okay, I'm ready to just change all this stuff, and it does that perfectly. And I've got it settled into just basically one patch that I copy paste over and over again, and change the name and change the tempo, change the name for the song, and then change the tempo. And it's just made my life really easy. I think long term, like, it's like, would I like to have a true bypass looper solution for the drive pedals? Like, yeah, but honestly, like I'm totally fine with just kind of like tap dancing through these. As long as this is taken care of with my wet effects, I'm perfectly happy. I love the Morningstar MC8. I'm a huge fan of their stuff. Yeah, they're really great. And that's it, y'all. My friend Ethan C. wired this up for me. These are Switchcraft SP400s, and Mogami is at 2819. Whatever like the standard cable is for pedal boards. They're awesome. I had a board wired up for me in the past, but I didn't really know the difference, and I was on kind of a hodgepodge of like solderless cables from like Crosby Audio, which basically the Creation solderless pedals, and some like Evidence Audio screw and solderless, and I just didn't know what I was missing with solderless cables. When I plugged all this stuff in for the first time and like checked the audio just to make sure it worked, I could not believe how big of a difference it made. I texted Ethan immediately and was like, dude, my drive pedals sound different. Like, everything sounds different with it. There's so much more clarity. Everything's crispier. And you've heard probably a common theme of just like punchier and fuller. I want everything to sound really punchy and full and massive. And these cables help. There are a couple Goodwood cables in there, but it's still the Mogami 2319 or whatever it is. It's just that I had to get a couple TRS cables made for some of these like TRS-N pedals, like this guy, and that guy. And for the most part, Ethan made these cables for me, and they sound amazing. He did a great job. And then it's powered by a Strymon Zuma and a Strymon Ojai. This is a Pedal Train 3 that I've had for a long time, and a Creation Audio built-in or live-in case that I've also had for a long time. For me right now, this is an absolutely perfect board. It sounds amazing. I'm super happy with how it feels and how all the pedals work together, how they sound together, everything. This is kind of like a dream board for me. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Throw them down in the comments, or follow me on Instagram. I'd love to help you any way that I can. Yeah, I'd love to be a resource to you. Anyway, enjoy it.